Dresden Files book, Grave Peril, came out in 2001. It features ghosts, fairies, and a return of the vampires we first caught a glimpse of in Stormfront. Grave Peril breaks up the rather monotone plot of Dresden solving crimes alone by giving him a partner, Michael, a spirited, pious Christian, ready to serve justice like an old-school superhero, who contrasts with Dresden's dark, brooding noir personality. Having them bounce off of each other makes things interesting, similar to Colossus and Deadpool. The plot starts in media res, with Dresden and Michael rescuing a hospital from the haunting of Agatha Hagglethorne, a woman who killed her infant while trying to keep her quiet when Agatha's abusive husband was being threatening. Caught in this moment of distress, only half conscious, Agatha tries to kill the infants in the maternity ward, one of which is named Allison Ann Summers, likely a reference to Buffy the Vampire Slayer's Buffy Ann Summers. While dangerous and in need of dispatching, the book makes the ghost sympathetic by making her terrified of the figure of her husband, similar to the portrayal of Monica in Stormfront. As such, I think Jim Butcher avoids sexist cliches in depicting a maternal killer. Dresden and Michael attack her, Michael using his holy sword Amorakius, and they manage to double kill her. The plot skips back to the beginning of the adventure, where Dresden meets a seer named Lydia, who is your standard femme fatale, when that dame walked into my office, adventure instigator. She tries using sex appeal to influence him, and he doesn't go for it, but does employ male gaze in describing it. She tips him off to Agatha, and we return to the present. Dresden and Michael are arrested, but Karen Murphy bails them out and pulls Dresden in to help her co-worker with a spiritual ailment connected to the plot. Murphy doesn't do a whole lot in this book. Dresden describes her as badass, but just rehashes the plots of the first two books. And then she and Dresden trade snarky banter, with him being sexist and trying to justify it by saying male chauvinism just comes with his traditionalist respect for women. Hey, Jim Butcher. Sexism isn't respect. Anyway, Agatha isn't the only spook freaking out. Lately, all ghosts are becoming more active, threatening the already failing masquerade, and everybody is super on edge about it. Dresden finds a series of torturous black chains wrapped around ghost and human souls alike to drive them mad with agony. And it seems like the source is a superpowered ghost, called the Nightmare. When Dresden confronts the Nightmare, it takes Dresden's form and uses it to threaten Susan, now Dresden's committed girlfriend, as well as Michael's wife, Charity. While it should be noted that neither of them actually end up in the Nightmare's clutches as true damsels in distress, the trope is functionally in place when it comes to Dresden and Michael as male heroes, fighting the Nightmare on their behalf. While they pursue the Nightmare, Dresden winds up face to face with his fairy godmother, to whom Dresden owes a favor. One night, he went down to the crossroad, fell down on his knees, and now he's got hellhounds on his trail. He tries to outrun her, but she eventually catches him. The Fae can sometimes offer favors on the order of the deal with the devil, and this particular one acts like a mob boss, the Godfather, so calling her a fairy godmother is a cute tie-in. Dresden makes another deal on top of his old deal, asking for the strength to survive the Nightmare, in exchange to becoming her sex slave later. Giving credit where it's due, the threat of a man becoming a sex slave to a woman is treated with appropriate foreboding, something even Buffy the Vampire Slayer struggled with. As the local representative of the White Council, the governing body of wizards, Dresden receives a customary invitation to a masquerade ball thrown by vampire Madame Bianca. He at first ignores it, but decides that there might be something gained by attending and doing some investigation of the guests. Bringing Michael as his +1, Dresden dresses as a cheesy vampire to neg them. Only one vampire isn't totally offended, Thomas, a likable rogue type, willing to help Dresden out to an extent. We're made aware of vampire politics. There are at least 3 courts of vampires, black, red, and white. The fact that these are standard gothic vampire colors is not something lost on me. Dracula was Black Court, and those guys are mostly extinct and the laughingstock of modern vampires. Bianca is Red Court, an anthropomorphic bat in the guise of a sexy humanoid. Thomas is White Court, more humanoid than Red Court, and I'm not sure if he has any animal form at all. As a member of a different court than Bianca, he has reason to help Dresden insofar as it would embarrass her. He's kind of like Visser 1 helping the Animorphs to embarrass Visser 3. God, I'm a nerd. In my opinion, the vampire stuff is the best part of the whole book. As a vampire fan, though, I'm a bit annoyed by the portrayal of them as despicable sexual dominants, seducing humans with their sexy wiles. It's a bit kink-shaming. It's the same dynamic seen with Bianca and Stormfront, taken to the degree of an entire vampire society. For a series with rampant sexualization of its female characters, it really seems to hate consensual sexuality. Unfortunately, Susan tries to party crash for investigative journalism, putting her in danger, because vampires aren't the only ones who need an invite for safe passage. The vampires freak out, capture her, and start to vampirize her just to piss off Dresden. It comes out that one vampire, Mavra, orchestrated the whole thing to remove Amarachius's power. In order for Susan to live, Michael has to allow a vampire to kill Lydia with it, defiling it. Obviously, Michael doesn't want to do this. Good thing that Mavra is Black Court and Thomas is White Court, ensuring his help, until Bianca threatens his girlfriend. And then a lot of stuff happens. I don't think it's of much substance, regardless of all the twists and turns. There's a lot of power struggles and intrigue, running back and forth, and it culminates in a nightmare-possessed Lydia killing Dresden, and then the nightmare fighting Dresden's ghost in the Never Never. Dresden defeats the nightmare and is revived thanks to CPR. I imagine Buffy could have inspired this, but frankly, so too could have the Frighteners. Susan sells her memories of Dresden to the fairy godmother to cover his debt. Dresden magics them back, but Susan decides that she has to leave at the end of the book because of the psychological toll, and the vampires halfway inducting her into their species. The book concludes with him as a stoic lone hero figure, standing against the magical bullies of Chicago. Like the other books, this book has a lot going on, but not much substance. I feel like Jim Butcher tries too hard to make the ending a surprise, and throwing in a bunch of twists and turns, while not working on his characters and making them likable. I have to take notes because the complicated plots are hard to follow. I'm sure I make mistakes, but I don't think it matters that much. I get the gist of what's going on. It's more of the same. Dresden's a sexist jerk. Female characters are sexualized, while consensual sex is demonized. There are damsels in distress and other annoying noir tropes. And there's always a bit of racism thrown in. This book breaks the streak of not calling puppets voodoo dolls. It's just a mess. And I'm honestly not sure if I want to continue this series.
Tell me, aren't you the ghost of jealousy? Scared yet?
Please like, share, subscribe, and consider donating to my Patreon. Pledges of $2 or more will earn you an explicit thank you at the end of each video. Thank you.